Planning for a big trip is a major undertaking. Jim and Vicki were taking their granddaughters, Chloe and Annika, for a full month in Europe in April-May of 2011. Chloe prepared by taking classes in European history. She was especially excited to see the art and architecture in Europe. Annika was really excited about going on a cruise ship, seeing the Eiffel Tower, and staying on the small island of Skiathos in Greece. Our trip included a flight to London, taking the Eurostar under the English Channel to Paris, flying from Paris to Athens, Greece, flying to the small island of Skiathos, and then flying back again to Athens, and then flying to Venice, where we would stay for a few days before getting on our cruise ship. The cruise ship had many ports of call: Dubrovnik, Croatia; Messina, Sicily; Naples, Italy; Rome, Italy; Florence, Italy; Monaco, and finally Barcelona, Spain, where we would end our trip and start going home. Waiting for our flight at SeaTac. Killing time at the Chicago airport. After an all-nighter from Chicago, we arrived in London exhausted. We were staying outside the main part of London, so we had to take a tram to get back to the train to get into the city. Our first visit was to Westminster Abbey. Because the royal wedding was the next week, we weren't sure we'd be allowed inside. The abbey was gigantic and filled with many beautiful sculptures. Chloe's favorite part was the Poets' Corner, because she'd read so many of the books written by those authors who were memorialized there. She was also impressed by the Ladies' Chapel, in which Mary, Queen of Scots, Mary Tudor, and Elizabeth I were buried. After we left Westminster Abbey, we walked past Big Ben and the Parliament buildings. Big Ben. As we started across the Thames River, we saw the statue of Boadicea, a heroic symbol of Britain. She led an uprising against the Roman Empire in the 1st century AD. After crossing the Thames, we bought tickets for the London Eye, Annika's top choice in London. It's a huge Ferris wheel, reaching 443 feet into the sky and taking 40 minutes to go around completely. The sounds of London were fascinating. We ended the day with Madame Tussaud's Wax Museum. It's the original in London. She was originally from Paris and made wax figures of heads of those aristocrats that met Madame Guillotine. These were placed on pikes for all the people to see that the aristocrats got their just desserts. The museum was very crowded when we went, but fun nonetheless. Having a whole apartment to ourselves was so much nicer than staying in a hotel room. We started our last day in London with the tour of the Globe Theatre. It was a replica to exactly match the materials and architecture of Shakespeare's Globe.
Old medieval prison, and this area was named after it. And it was called a liberty because you were at liberty to do as you pleased. Over in London, they were strict. They didn't like you drinking. They certainly didn't like you gambling. They didn't like many forms of immoral and popular activities. So those things came to this side of the river. There were many taverns in the area. There were many bawdy houses. There were bull and bear baiting pits. Bear pits were buildings like this. In the middle there would be a bear tied down, or a bull. They used other animals too. One record talks of a horse with a monkey tied to its back. The audience would sit around and dogs would attack the animals. And the Elizabethans loved this. They would get blood in their faces. It was very gruesome. But you must remember they weren't so sensitive as we are now. At that time there was one bridge across the river, Old London Bridge. And on the south gate of the bridge there were spikes. If you had committed treason or murder and you were quite a high profile person, you'd be taken to the tower, separated from your head, and your head would be stuck on one of these spikes. So the people coming across to the theatres and the entertainment here would go under this gate with all the severed heads above them. But this did not bother the Elizabethans. They did not mind blood and guts like we do. So in the area you had the taverns, the bawdy houses, the bear pits, and you also had the theatres. Now we think of theatre as something quite cultural. We go and we sit very quietly. We listen. But not so much in Shakespeare's day. It was just good, popular entertainment. Everyone went to the theatre, from poor to rich. And the atmosphere inside was much more like a rock concert or a football match. You know, it's much more rowdy. The audience would shout to each other. They would shout up to the actors. There would be eating and drinking. And the Puritans, those very strict Protestants, they referred to theatres as nests of the devil. This was for two reasons. One, as we said, the crowd was rowdy. They would be drinking alcohol. There might be some fighting. It was a great place if you were a criminal, very easy to steal inside there. Also, you had ladies of immoral virtue working the crowds. So they would be in there looking for customers, for clients. So the Puritans obviously were disgusted by this. The other reason they thought they were immoral is to do with acting. Do we have any actors with us today? No? Or if you are, you're too shy to say, oh, we have one. Gosh. Okay, well, I will try not to be offensive. Actors are all immoral. They tell wicked, wicked lies. You know? If you're an actor on that stage, you might be pretending to be a king or a lord, and you're lying. You're telling a lie to the audience. This was how the Puritans saw it. They saw acting as a form of sin.
Originally, Shakespeare could pack 3,000 people into the theater, but now with safety regulations, only 1,500 can fit in the theater, with 600 standing in the groundling section and 900 in the seats. But even the plays are performed the same way that they were in Elizabethan times. Preparing for this season's opening. Balcony, where the wealthy patrons sat. Walking along London streets towards the Tower Bridge. This is the new City Hall. The Tower Bridge. The Tower of London, founded by William the Conqueror in 1078, is actually a historic castle and served as a prison for many centuries. Many prisoners of the Tudors entered the Tower of London through this Traitor's Gate. They passed under the London Bridge, where the heads of recently executed prisoners were displayed on pikes. Queen Anne Boleyn, Sir Thomas More, Queen Catherine Howard all entered the tower by this Traitor's Gate. We visited the Bloody Tower first. Chloe says that it got its name because two princes, King Edward VI's children, were put in there by the king's brother, Richard III, after Edward died. 2 months after the boys were last seen alive, Richard III died in battle. The boys were reported dead or missing by Sir Thomas More. The question was, what happened to these heirs to the throne? Were they killed by Henry VIII, who was next in line for the throne after Richard III? Were they assassinated by Richard III before he died in battle? Did they just disappear or escape? It wasn't until the 20th century that the 2 sets of adolescent male skeletons were found buried on the Tower of London grounds. Anthropologists thought that these were the 2 princes, but the science has advanced so that now they could tell more if only the bones could be dug up again. However, they're now buried in Westminster Abbey, so this is not possible. It is said that when the ravens leave the Tower of London, the city will fall. Jem became friendly with this raven. A crowded subway took us to the British Museum. Annika is in the Egyptian wing. This is called heifer being led to sacrifice. Aphrodite was sculpted in the 1st to the 2nd century. Amenhotep I, god of the dead. 2 horsemen from the Parthenon frieze. The Rosetta Stone carries an inscription in different languages, which help decipher the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic script. It is the only surviving fragment of a larger stone slab, recording a decree on the 27th of March, 196 BC. At the top of the decree was written in hieroglyphics, the traditional script of Egyptian monuments, already 3,000 years old. In the middle, the same decree was written in Demotic, the everyday script of literate Egyptians, and at the bottom in Greek, the language used by the government. This is the view from our apartment window in the heart of Paris. We stayed right by the Canal Saint-Martin. The girls wrote that we got a late start today, and by the time we got to the Louvre, the lines were at least a half-mile long, winding in and around the many wings. We think it was because there was a school break, and it was the week before Easter. Many French students and tourists were in Paris. We decided not to wait, but to try another day. We walked along the Seine and saw ducklings. After crossing the bridge to the island, we went to Notre Dame. The line there was so long that we went first to Sainte-Chapelle and waited another hour in a line. It was one of the most beautiful places we had ever been. Instead of stone, there was stained glass for all the walls. They depicted religious stories, and it was incredible to see the light shine through them. Finally, we were able to go to Notre Dame. Gargoyles from the Hunchback of Notre Dame lurked down on us. We visited the Conciergerie, the prison where Marie Antoinette was held before her execution. When you first walked into a room of arches, it felt a lot like Notre Dame, except it was brighter. Inside, we saw Marie Antoinette's holding cell, her chapel, and the ladies' courtyard where they were allowed to get fresh air. We had another long train ride on our trip to Versailles to see Fontainebleau, the Palace of Kings. The lines here were incredible. We waited about an hour and a half as the lines went back and forth under the hot sun. When we finally made it inside, it was beautiful, but there were so many people, it was really hard to see anything. Chloe especially loved the art on the walls and the ceiling. This is the Hall of Mirrors. This is the Queen's bedroom. And this is the King's bedroom. We wanted to go to the gardens, but the lines were long again. Our feet hurt, and it was even hotter outside. Our next stop was the Musée d'Orsay. Chloe was interested in seeing all of the museum, while Annika was more interested in seeing the sculptures, the architecture, and playing on her iPad. We then went to Basilica Sacré-Cœur on the hill above Montmartre. We rode up on the funicular, an outdoor elevator. At the top, we had a beautiful view with lots of people who were waiting for the sunset and listening or performing music. Inside, they were just starting a service, so as we walked through, the nuns started singing. It echoed throughout the basilica and was enchanting. We had dinner at an outdoor cafe below Sacré-Cœur. Annika decided to try escargot, snails. She said they tasted just like garlic bread. To top our incredible day off, we went to see the Eiffel Tower at night. The lights on it made it look gold, and Annika said that she felt she was now really in Paris. As with the start of each day in Paris, we took the metro. Today we got off at Place de la Concorde. This is where many were executed by Madame Guillotine during the French Revolution. We walked down the Champs-Élysées to the Arc de Triomphe. The Tuileries Gardens were once part of a former royal palace in Paris, begun by Catherine de Medici in 1564. At the Arc de Triomphe, we almost went up the stairs, but Nane got claustrophobic on the winding, narrow stairs after about 2 floors, and we had to go the wrong way back down against all the people who were coming up. After an elevator ride to the top, we got a view of everything. We saw the Basilica Sacré-Cœur on top of the hill, the Eiffel Tower, downtown Paris, La Défense, La Augustine, and other landmarks. Another metro ride, this time towards the Louvre. Finally, we were at the Art Museum of all museums. We spent 3 hours at this wonderful museum. Chloe's favorite piece was the Winged Victory. Annika's was the statue of Artemis, or Diana. Chloe is practicing to be a photographer. The famous Mona Lisa is really pretty small. Annika says the Louvre is beautiful from the pieces it holds to the beauty of the architecture. If you're ever traveling to Paris, this is a definite must-see. We scheduled a tour in advance. When we entered the first elevator, it started to go up, up, up. It was very hot and there was much shoving and pushing. Everybody felt a little bit shaky. At the halfway point, you had to get on another smaller elevator for the last leg of the journey. You could almost see all of Paris. We all felt that our time in Paris was just too short. We had to get up at 2:30 in the morning to catch our flight to Athens. The airport is outside of town, so we had to ride the metro for about an hour. Annika loved her new suitcase that rolled in all directions. The street scene is very confusing with so many pedestrians and vendors everywhere. This street is directly below our hotel, the only hotel we stayed in on our entire trip. They're selling flowers at the back of their truck right on this busy street. This man is selling birds on the front of his motorcycle. The meat market is right on the sidewalk of this busy street. This is the Placa, a shopping area with no cars, only shops. We ate a late lunch outdoors in the Placa. Here we were approached by a woman who was selling lace tablecloths and offered one to us for €5. Annika decided she wanted one for her mother, but the price was now €90. We said no, but this woman continued to pester us until we finally left. Annika's food creation. This is below the Acropolis. Hadrian's Arch. This is Zeus's temple. This is the ancient Agora. Annika was worried about all the loose dogs outside the Parthenon. If this is really a police car, where did they put the prisoners? The President's Guard. This is the Panathinaik Stadium, built for the first modern Olympics in 1887. Chloe wrote that our plane to Skiathos was notably small and held only about 36 people. It was interesting because it was moved by propellers, not jets, and you could see the underside of the wings while looking out the window. It would be nerve-wracking to most, but we were now experienced flyers and ready to face anything. Our luggage grew while we were in Paris. We now have 6 suitcases. We're finally here! Annika surprised us with a 35th anniversary party, while Chloe provided the music on an iPad. This is the view from our deck at Nostros Resort, Skiathos, Greece. However, it was 400 steps down to the beach and the restaurant. Our first arrival at the beach on the Aegean Sea. The restaurant is off just to the right. The girls wrote, "This morning we slept in until about 10 a.m. We definitely made up for all the early mornings. By lunchtime, we were already on the beach. The weather was phenomenal and we kept thinking about how lucky we were because the weather was probably not this nice back at home. When we finally got to the beach, a large gathering was being held in honor of Easter. There were goats on spits roasting over open fires. Papa really wanted us to try them, but we couldn't stomach it. We walked to the far corner of the beach, and while Annika built a sandcastle, Chloe did some more beach combing. After a little while it got so hot, so Annika went swimming. She said the water's not as cold as Puget Sound, but much colder than a hot tub. She enjoyed it a lot. She tried to catch a few fish, but wasn't quick enough.
Definitely not crowded.
Really need a big thing to...
Saving the castle from the tsunami!
I'm gonna use this. Drop the boat.
Quick, quick, quick! Uh-oh. Here comes another wave.
Not if I can do anything about it.
Shore it up, quick, quick.
Oh, I have an idea. You're gonna work as quickly as you can and my body's gonna block.
Uh-oh, it's going down in the middle. Quick, Ani, the wall's falling.
Caving into the center.
It's caving in on right there.
I'm gonna be a jam for now. Okay. It's very close. Annika, you're keeping the water away for a while.
But not long.
That's that damn Annika.
There's only so much I can do. The rock will stay, and that wall's caving. Just make a dam in front of it, and then we can. Okay. I need some help.
She can't be in two places at once.
You make big, gigantic pits on both sides. That way the water will go into them. Try to get dry sand. Okay. It washed away now.
Here comes Papa with more rocks.
I feel like it is. I'm trying my hardest, but the tide's getting stronger.
A true community effort. Save the fort. Save the castle.
I think, Annika, you're probably the best dam we're gonna get.
You're a pretty good damn Annika.
Today was our day to visit the town of Skiathos. We loved all the narrow streets. We stopped at an outdoor restaurant to have Greek gyros for lunch. We're back at Nastos Resort. Our dock has an interesting shape. Our flight back to Athens. The flight from Athens to Rome was short and smooth. The only worry was when we landed in Rome, we had to change flights, and we only had 45 minutes to switch gates. After we got on that flight, there were no more problems. When we touched down at the Marco Polo Airport in Venice, we took a tram across the tarmac. After that, we took a bus as far as it would go into the city of canals. We got on a very busy water taxi, but a man met us at our stop to lead us to the apartment we'd rented online. We passed a shop with interesting shoes. This is the Grand Canal. Night in St. Mark's Square. This is the Piazza di San Marcos in the daylight. The Basilica di San Marco is behind the girls. Inside the church, although there was no stained glass, you still had the feeling of awe and solemnity, as in every other church we'd been in. The mosaics all over the walls and high vaulted ceilings made it feel as if you were surrounded by one giant painting, as Annika put it. On the roof were replicas of horses. But these are the original horses that sat atop the cathedral before Napoleon took them in 1796. These are over 2,000 years old, and we saw many scratches all over them. We read that the scratches were there on purpose to stop reflectiveness. The symbol of Venice is the winged lion. If the Bible is open, Venice is said to be at peace. If it's closed, Venice is at war. We had dinner at this restaurant just off the Grand Canal, back in St. Mark's Square at night. The Doge's palace, the Duke's palace, was smaller than Versailles, but reminded Chloe a lot of the Chateau Fontainebleau. There were many tour groups, and we got stuck behind most of them. Annika enjoyed the armory. She says that she liked the horse armor. Papa preferred the different weaponry. Both Chloe and Nani enjoyed the many massive and elaborate council rooms. Chloe pointed out that there were so many different councils you couldn't even keep track of them. This is the view from the bell tower. We took an elevator up 323 feet, approximately 32 stories, until we reached the top. From the top, the view is spectacular. We were waiting for the bells to ring at 11 o'clock, but found that they did not. We asked a worker and he told us that they didn't ring until 12 o'clock. When we were done taking pictures, we just left.
Well, it seems like that's in the wrong place, but there's a cruise ship over there, and I saw a bridge going over there. It seems like it's real wrong. Maybe not. I guess not.
Why aren't they ringing? Because clocks are different times.
We took a water taxi to Santa Maria della Salute, a church across the Grand Canal. It was being restored, but we all thought that the high domes and tall windows were breathtaking. As we walked over one canal, we saw a gondolier and decided just to go for it. As we glided along the canals, we saw churches, Casanova's and Marco Polo's houses, other gondolas, and enjoyed the lazier side of Venice. Although it is pegged as a touristy thing to do, it shows you a part of Venice you would not see otherwise. Chloe is back on a water taxi. It was time to try on fun masks. We took a train to Verona. Here we're entering the gates to the city. We were going to visit the third largest Roman Colosseum in the world. Chloe was disappointed though, because when I walk into a Colosseum, I want to be transported back to gladiators fighting, not to last Friday when a rock band was playing. She did admit, however, that it was a nice idea to reuse the space, although she didn't like the idea that they did it the way they did. A late afternoon snack of fruit certainly helped. It started to rain hard while we were there. Although we were reluctant, we went to La Casa de Juliet, Juliet's house, anyway, as it was on our list. When we finally found it, Annika put a letter about our travels in the post to Juliet. As nobody wanted to stay in the rain, we quickly left for the train station. Annika spent a while before we left feeding the pigeons. Do you have a lot left?
Yep. And that one, Frederick. Annika, you gotta do it. They're going to somebody else.
You're getting off of both these pigeons. Yeah.
Well, they're not flying over.
I dug too.
Maybe they like chocolate.
When Annika finished feeding pigeons, we all went down to the ship in order to board.
And we are truly honoured that you're here to share it with us. Bon voyage.
Oh, we're back.
Okay, wave, Annie.
He watched very slowly.
Bon voyage, Annika! Bon voyage!
I'm so excited! We're on a cruise. I'm so excited!
Bon voyage, Chloe!
I'm so excited! Scratch my ear.
Would you say we are moving very slowly?
We are.
Our first day at sea was a great day to explore the ship. Annika went to Club Carnival for a while, where she met a girl named Monique from South Africa. They became friends, and while everyone else relaxed, they explored the ship together and went to the water slides. Annika is on the ropes course. Carnival Magic's Water Park. Dinner is an elegant affair on board. Early this morning, the ship docked at Dubrovnik, Croatia on the Adriatic Sea. The city's past goes back to ancient Greek sailors, well before the 600s AD. We had 12 hours in port, so we enjoyed a lot of flexibility today. We had to go through security to get off the ship after we went down the gangplank, and of course we had to take our passports with us for identification. We were immediately bombarded by souvenir shops. We looked at what they had to offer before we took a taxi to the walled city of Old Town Dubrovnik. Once there, we took photos of the battlements above a cove. The weather was horrible, but it made for beautiful pictures of the turbulent sea. We proceeded across the drawbridge and into this walled medieval town. This is Onofrio's fountain. While we wanted to walk on the wall, we decided to first walk down the Stradun, the main street of Old Dubrovnik. We found our favorite dessert, tiramisu gelato and ate it in the rain. We went in all the shops and the churches and bought a few souvenirs and some gifts. We really wanted Croatian food, but ended up eating pizza for lunch. While Papa and Annika sat by Onofrio's fountain in the main square, Nani and Chloe went up into the wet ramparts. The stone stairs were very slippery, and the wind was so strong it took Chloe's umbrella and sailed it away. The rooftops of the old town were beautiful on the wall. After the loss of her umbrella, Chloe's using Nani's. Another lovely dinner on board our ship. We had another relaxing day at sea as we sailed down the Adriatic and around into the Mediterranean Sea. Tonight was formal night, so we all dressed up. The waiters even sang to us tonight. Today we awoke to the Italian island of Sicily. The Strait of Messina. Across the way, across the strait, is the main part of Italy, the toe. Nani. This is what you need to read. We decided to walk up to the Cristo Rey Church on the hill. To our surprise, inside it was an art gallery, and we could look down to a bottom level and see a casket, much like at Westminster Abbey, with a statue of a person lying on top. We thought maybe it was a knight, but as we looked later when we went to the bottom level, we found it was a war memorial, and instead of a knight, it was a World War II soldier. Cars parked everywhere in Messina, in every imaginable space. It made it impossible to drive a car or even walk on a sidewalk. We met this creature on the street. This is the old clock tower. The Carnival Magic, our ship, is in the harbor. Nani and Chloe went on a 1-hour bus ride to the medieval city of Taormina. We are entering the gates of this walled city. Our tour guide walked us past several churches and through 3 squares. He showed us one restaurant where the entrance was about a foot wide. This is the official symbol of Taormina, Medusa with 3 legs, symbolizing the shape of Taormina. We went up to a Greek amphitheater, and after a human jam, we went inside. Chloe thought this amphitheater was much more authentic than the one in Verona. Looking down from Taormina, Chloe took this photo of the coastline of Sicily. We are ready to witness the eruption of Stromboli volcano, one of the world's longest recorded periods of activity of any volcano. It was very cold, and the eruption did not happen on time. We saw it! We saw it erupt! We were some of the very few who actually got photos because Papa and Chloe played with camera settings for a long time before the eruption. Our port of call today was Naples, and we were going to see the ruins of Pompeii. This is Mount Vesuvius, the Amalfi Coast, and the Isle of Capri. Mount Vesuvius. These are port offices. This castle served as a fort at the entrance to the harbor. We enjoyed a visit to a cameo carving factory. They carved them from coral, shells, and semi-precious stones. These were crypts for burials just outside the city of Pompeii. Pompeii was buried in ash from Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD and was not rediscovered until 1749 AD. Our guide was very good, and he led us through the ruins. Inside we saw taverns with still intact bars, an outdoor theater, and a bathhouse. Afterwards, we saw some villas, the Forum, the Basilica, and Jupiter's Temple. Even though we saw so much, we still only saw about a quarter of this 2,000-year-old rubble. These are chariot tracks. This is one of the bodies that were found entombed in ash. It has been preserved in its original position with cement. These are the Roman baths. This is the Roman Forum. the Isle of Capri. Today should have been the best day of all. It started off okay, but it ended horribly. After a 90-minute bus ride, we encountered long lines waiting to get in to the Vatican Museum. Inside, we saw many sculptures and tapestries. La Pietà by Michelangelo. St. Peter's Basilica. The Vatican lived up to all of Chloe's expectations and more. She loved seeing things in real life instead of just in books. This is the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Annika said it was much smaller than she thought it would be, but it was still beautiful. When we came out, it was very, very hot. We had lunch and then we wanted to go see the Trevi Fountain. Unfortunately, our tour guide had other plans. She didn't allow us to go to the Trevi Fountain or to the Roman Colosseum. Instead, she just drove all over to various small districts in and around the outskirts of Rome. We were very unhappy. This is the gate to the Roman Colosseum, which we weren't allowed to go in. We filed a complaint with about 50 other passengers, and we were given our full refund. We love Vatican City, but the rest was not good. After another 90-minute bus drive through the beautiful Tuscan countryside, we reached Firenze, Florence. We walked past Leonardo da Vinci's house and into the Piazza della Signorina. It is an open-air museum of sculptures. Here there was a copy of Michelangelo's David. Our tour guide told us about the making of the original and why they had to put it inside. It had been made from inferior marble and was cracking. It is now surrounded by a glass case and is located in the Accademia. This is the baptistry of St. John Basilica, built between 1059 and 1128 AD. Bronze doors to the baptistry with relief sculptures on them. The Arno River flows through Florence. This is the Ponte Vecchio Bridge, the old bridge. The Medicis, the reigning family of the time, built a passage from the castle to the museum so that they wouldn't have to mingle with the commoners. A tradition in Florence is for lovers to make a vow together with a lock. Then they threw the key in the Arno River, symbolizing that they would stay together forever. We next visited the Uffizi Museum of the Medicis. It is the oldest museum in the world. Inside, we saw many famous paintings, and because the museum was organized in chronological order, we got to see the history and how the styles of art progressed. Unfortunately, it was very crowded, and Annika didn't get to see much over the heads of adults. But what she did see, she said was beautiful. Chloe continued to say that every time she sees something that she's only seen in books, she can't believe that she's seeing it in real life. After the Uffizi, our tour guide led us to the cathedral and Piazza del Duomo. We marveled at the church and then went to lunch. This is the Piazza del Duomo. This is the oldest church in Florence. It was built in 895 AD. We were surprised that the people of the Dark Ages would have the resources available to build such a beautiful and elaborate church. The ride back through Tuscany. Florence was one of our favorite cities and one of the best tours. It was great. This ship passed us in the Mediterranean Sea. While we arrived in Monaco early in the morning, the ship didn't dock. We found out that due to high winds, the port would not let us dock, so we had another fun day at sea. Chloe and Papa spent 3 hours at an art auction, and Chloe bought 5 prints. Time for entertaining waiters again.
No,
a magician at our table.
Read them out. But that's the only piece of paper I'm going to have. You're going to read the predictions. Now, at this point, now that I'm committed, I want you to open your hand. Tell us how much change.
13 cents.
13 cents. You guys have a good night tonight. No, no. Let's see, if I pull out 10, 11, 12, 13, 13 cents, I have as much as you do. Put that in the pouch, I've got as much as you do, don't I? That's pretty impressive, isn't it? No, not really. I just had to have $1 on the table. I told you to think less than $1. As long as I had $1, I could beat you, right? Okay, that's why I write prediction number 2.
I have yours plus 13 cents.
Yeah, I have yours plus 13 cents. Let's see, let's take out another 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's put that 13 cents inside the pouch. As long as I do that, I have yours plus 13 cents. Now that's a little more impressive, isn't it? No, I just had $1.13. That's why I write the last prediction.
Okay. I have enough left on the table to make yours equal to $1.27.
Our ship docked at 5 in the morning. The apartment where we were staying in Barcelona belonged to a lady doctor, and it did take her a while to be able to get off her shift to be able to come and meet us to give us keys. This is a statue of Christopher Columbus. We're looking down from our new apartment. We decided to check out Gaudi's houses in Park Güell. Annika thought they were interesting and beautiful, but because her ankle was hurting from all the walking, we cut it short and went home. Chloe thought that the buildings came straight out of a fairy tale, and she was reluctant to leave. Annika thinks that Barcelona is a beautiful and clean city. She especially likes our balcony. Chloe loved the fact that Spanish artists and architects were so willing to try new and beautiful art styles. She too loved Barcelona. On our last day in Europe, we decided to start it with a visit to La Sagrada Familia Cathedral, a Gaudi creation. The facade was different from any other church we'd seen. There were no straight lines. They all seemed to spiral upwards. It was designed by Antonio Gaudi and is one of the most famous works in Barcelona. This cathedral has been under construction for 118 years, since 1882, and it is still not finished. Inside, the church was filled with pillars that were very beautiful. The stained glass windows cast colored lights on the pillars. It was the most memorable church we've seen, but not our favorite. Chloe believes her favorite churches are St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, Sacré-Cœur, and Sainte-Chapelle in Paris. We took a taxi ride through town. We wanted to see more of Gaudi's houses in Barcelona. Gaudi's Casa Mila Antonio is an apartment building. This is Gaudi's Casa Batlló. We had lunch at an outdoor cafe on Las Ramblas, the most famous street in all of Spain. The vendors here must be selling illegally because they're prepared to quickly grab their merchandise and move away if the police come by. These statues were fun to watch. We took a taxi up the hill to the Spanish village of Pobre Español, a medieval village rebuilt in Barcelona for a World's Fair. We enjoyed this most out of all the attractions in Barcelona because there were no crowds. It was very peaceful and authentic, making us feel as if we were actually in a medieval Spanish village. We are sad to leave Europe in the morning, but we are happy to be going home. This day was the hardest of all because we were up for 26 hours altogether with almost no sleep on the plane. On reflection, our favorite places were Paris, Venice, Dubrovnik, Florence, Barcelona, and the island of Skiathos. We had a wonderful time, but we're glad to be home again.